Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of Sports Wrap. My name is Scott Morganroth. You wonder why we're on this earlier? Well, there's a good reason. My wife and I are going to be going to Europe tomorrow, and we wanted to make sure we have an opportunity to get our shows in a timely manner and still be able to pack. Well, guess what? This show is committed to hockey, and that's exactly what we're going to do is stay true to form with hockey. The Florida Panthers defend their Stanley Cup. During the course of the show, George and I are going to talk about a lot of interesting facts about the Stanley Cup Finals, and there'll be some hockey stuff as well. Joshua Dorr, glad to have you in the chat room. I have a feeling you're going to really enjoy this show. It should be. Your Panthers are the back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, so stay with us. If you don't get all the facts the first time from us, we'll go ahead and replay it, share it with your friends and all that. But we started this show a little bit earlier today, and the reality is situation that we're going to own up. Yeah, Josh, I said they'd get knocked out in the first round. They won the cup. So what do you want me to do, Joshua? Do you want me to go out there and kiss your posterior? No. Am I going to sit here and own it that they had a great run? Yes. Am I doing a show to acknowledge the fact that they won the cup? Yes. But you're not getting any more than that because that's about all you deserve. Okay. So, yes, go ahead and enjoy the hockey clock that I gave you and that you can go ahead and go ahead there. I don't have to kiss my own posterior, Joshua, because the reason why I ban you on my personal cell phone is I don't have to worry about yours either. But that's all right. Enjoy the show, Joshua. This one is for you, as Barry Manilow would say during his song. Once upon a time, Barry Manilow, this one's for you. Don't get me started on singing.
Yeah.
Joshua, enjoy that. Your sarcasm, if it continues, means you automatically get banned from here like you get banned everywhere else. So enjoy the show and take it for its good nature, okay? Because there are a lot of hockey fans that are going to enjoy this show, and we have a lot of great information. That's what happens when you have two seasoned journalists doing this. So Kodak Flick said something like that too. All right, whatever, Joshua, stay on point, or the word OUT will stand to YOU. All right, let's keep it going. We have a lot of things to go. I'm not spending too much time with this guy. I've said all I need to do, and let's set the stage for what we're going to talk about. George, Seth Jones is the first player named Seth to win the Stanley Cup. Can you believe all these years that there's not a Seth on the cup until now?
No, I cannot believe that. That is very, very quirky that happened. That's amazing. Gosh, Seth. Yeah, always a first. There's always a first, and this is it for Seth.
Hey, Josh, I like this comment. Can't put it up there, can he? I'm as on point as a sharpshooter. Boy, I can't wait to get this guy in the air. Wouldn't it be nice if he has the guts to come on the air? Then we'll be able to see what a sharpshooter is. But I'm glad that's your best comment so far in the chat. Great stuff. Okay, Josh, keep the good ones coming because the other ones, if I don't think make any sense, don't even make the screen. But that was actually one of your better ones. All right, so the Florida Panthers, for the third time in expansion area, there's a team that ended up beating the same opponent in the Stanley Cup Finals. So they make history for all the right reasons. Montreal beat Boston in 1977 and 78, and Boston was over St. Louis 1968-69. So, yes, the Florida Panthers were able to go ahead. This is only the third time, people, that this even happened. What are your thoughts about that, George? The reality of the situation, it doesn't happen too often. Now, let me also point out, okay, that those wins that the Canadians was in a league, I think we only had like 12 teams at that point. So you had one division playing the other, and that happened. The Panthers did it under more difficult circumstances with the league being at around 30 teams. So to be able to pull that 30, 32 teams off for the Panthers is a much greater accomplishment than what the Canadians did when you have 12 teams versus 32 teams.
Well, yeah, I mean, that is very unusual for it to happen that way. I do remember that Scotty Bowman, coached those St. Louis Blues. Remember the expansion chain and that famous goal by Bobby Orr flying through the air, that famous photograph. And then, of course, I experienced, as you know, the Pittsburgh-Detroit, but they did not sweep, obviously. It was Detroit the first time. Then the next year it was Pittsburgh winning the cup. So at least I had a chance to experience in front of me one other time. The only time that I saw two teams play in successive years. But, yeah, to do it twice in a row, same opponent, that really is quite an achievement.
It really is. And I think especially the one thing I want to emphasize about that is they did it in a league where it's much, much more difficult to get in the playoffs these days. Once upon a time, you had 16 out of 21 teams to get in. But to get 16 out of double the amount of teams makes it a better accomplishment for Florida. It really, really, really does. And yes, Joshua, they did give them a spanky, spanky, spanky. And I have something later in the show that'll definitely define how much I think that your comment will carry more weight. If so, that's a great comment. And I have, in fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to mention the comment now. I don't want to make anybody wait. One of the things that really annoys me about teams, especially like the Edmonton Oilers, is that when you have pregame shenanigans that the Oilers tell the Panthers to get the hell off the ice in a pregame spat, if that doesn't motivate you to root for Florida, then tell me what the hell does. Because how on earth does Edmonton come in there cocky in a building in Sunrise and tell them to get the hell off the ice when they're down 3-2, their backs are to the wall? If that isn't, it's one thing to trash talk, but your actions have to speak louder than your words. And the Edmonton Oilers, their actions did not speak louder than their words. They could not get their goaltending situation right, having to go to two goaltenders, but to tell the Panthers to get the hell off the ice in their building, only to get beaten as badly as they did. We'll get to that later, but I wanted to get this up to earlier because that really falls in line with what Joshua said about giving us Maggie. So let me repeat what I just said. Pre-game shenanigans, the Oilers tell Panthers to get the hell off the ice in a pregame. I think that is classless by Edmonton. I really, really, Edmonton, your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I mean that was crazy to do that. I mean that you don't do that because it's just going to come out and bite you most of the time, and it surely did. That was ridiculous, and this team just was on all cylinders again. Florida was, so it was an incredible playoff run. I mean, excuse me, and then the Stanley Cup Finals themselves. But yeah, you don't go around telling people that because they'll use that for locker room fodder. We know that. Right. Bulletin board, as they used to say, Scott, bulletin board material.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Katie, put Joshua's latest comment because this only adds oil to a fire. How about Kane getting whacked for a slash at the end of the game, not coming back? Well, go figure. Okay, Evander Kane has a bad track record in the first place. Losing stinks, but when you do this, it just makes it that much worse. Good point, Joshua. Those are the points that we're looking to put up there for a whole worldwide audience. So go ahead and watch and observe. All right, let's continue the narrative here. Sam Reinhart, most goals in a Stanley Cup final since Wayne Gretzky in 1985 with 7. Pretty good accomplishment for Uncle Sam Reinhart.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Unbelievable. That's great numbers, great stats, and obviously he had a great series. No question about it.
Okay. Connor McDavid is the only player in NHL history to have 9 straight 90-point seasons but not win the Stanley Cup in any one of those. That's not a stat I'd be proud of. Of course, Josh, everybody named Sam as our uncle. Are you American or what other? I have a lot of Uncle Sams out here. Actually, really did have an uncle many, many years ago. Uncle Sam Morganroth. We had a good time. We have Uncle Sam, April 15th. Okay, he's your uncle. He's your uncle. Everybody's got an Uncle Sam. And in this case, since you're a Panthers guy, you got a couple uncles. Okay, I'm from Bangladesh. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Okay, but anyways, let's talk about Connor McDavid. 9 90-point seasons without a cup. Ouch.
Unbelievable, really. I mean, look at those numbers he's had. And like you said, except for his first year, his rookie year, when he only had 48 points. But again, that was in only 45 games played. So he would have got his 90 probably that year too. But every year since then, what a remarkable stat, Scott, that you pulled that one out too, man. Only player in history with that amount of points in a row and doesn't win a Stanley Cup. Incredible.
That's pretty. And a lot of talk out there is wondering how long he'll actually stay with them, whether or not he'll actually win a cup in Edmonton, or where does he go? Mike Santos went on record and said, he wouldn't be surprised if Connor McDavid goes to Toronto, and Toronto would welcome him because they haven't won a cup since 1967.
Oh, I know. Talk about a drought. Oh, God.
Oh, yeah, that's awful. I mean, there's an original 16, and this drought continues, and it continues to magnify as changes occur out in Toronto. But, yeah, Connor McDavid, you feel bad for him. I thought they had a chance to go ahead, and when Joshua and I even debated on this, that if Edmonton is able to get a stranglehold on the series earlier, then they could win it. But then as time went on, Florida did get a win in Edmonton. The confidence level began to increase more and more as Florida went on, and I'll continue to talk about that as the show progresses. So Paul Maurice is the first coach manager in MLB, NBA, NFL, NHL history to win multiple championships after winning none after his first 25 seasons.
Wow.
Yeah, some of the stuff that comes up with, to me, it just blows me away. And yes, Joshua, I already said that. I believe he'll win a cup somewhere else. But go ahead, George. Continue the narrative with Paul Maurice. When I heard that one, that floored me. That he stayed in the league, and all of a sudden, 25 years. We're talking about getting one off his back, and he wins 2 with the Panthers. But Bill Zito, in my opinion, is what you call the Einstein of hockey. But continue the narrative on Maurice before we go into Zito.
I've always admired Maurice. He's been really a great asset to this game. And the hundreds and almost thousand, but hundreds of hockey players that man has coached, probably thousands too. Who knows? You go back to his younger days. But back to your fact, 25 plus years. Oh my gosh. Vince Lombardi, Don Shula. You can go through all these guys. None of them had to wait that long, Walter Alston. I mean, keep going down the list. Ralph Houck. But anyways, you think about all these veterans, but I'm telling you one thing, Paul Maurice is a lifer, and he's an asset to this game and to this sport of hockey.
Yeah, I like the fact that you went out there and brought up Don Shula and Walter Alston. They had to wait a while. And give me the other ones that you also mentioned, because I think that is a very noble comparison.
Well, Shula and Lombardi. I don't know how old Vince was when he won it.
Well, Alston and Shula to me are the two that stand out on their list. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah,
because we have a lot to get to.
Yep.
So he's still waiting for you to play the piano. Well, don't hold your breath today. Okay, George is helping us out by coming on earlier today, so we could get the show in here. But I totally understand. But I agree. He says he finally has a good team that buys into his system. Of course he does. That's exactly well. Paul Maurice didn't have to come back to coach, but when he had opportunity to coach this many great players, you have to do it. And Paul Maurice was smart enough to do it. Andrew Brunette wasn't the answer, and I still think Joel Quenneville could have won with this team. Unfortunately, the other issues that preceded Joel came back to bite him, but Paul Maurice was a perfect solution to what they're doing down at Sunrise. Corey Perry, in his last 6 seasons, has appeared in 5 Stanley Cup finals as part of 4 different teams, hasn't won once. Ouch. I feel bad for the guy. It's just called bad luck, but he says he's going to come back and play next year.
Well,
where is anybody's guess?
Yeah. I mean, he's a decent player, very good player, and I'm wishing the best for him, but it is hard. It's completely hard because you want to do that. Your whole life, your whole ambition is to carry that cup. And Corey Perry is one of those guys again that he had 10 goals, and he tried his best, and but we don't know. I don't know where he's going to end up this off season. We don't know. 10 goals, 4 assists in 22 games. this postseason. But he's a good, solid player. I'll tell you what, he is a good player. I'll put him on my team any day.
Okay, I want to put Hashua's other comment. He finally has a good team that buys into his system, because it's going to play in the next thing that I'm going to go out there and leave it up there for just a moment. Okay, 9 Panthers have scored 15 plus points, which ties them with the New York Islanders in a single postseason. Let me list them. Okay, Sam Bennett came in with 22, Matthew Tkachuk 22, Alexander Barkov had 20, Carter Verhaeghe with 20, Brad Marchand with 20, Sam Reinhart with 19, Eetu Luostarinen has 18, Anton Lundell 17, and Evan Rodriguez as well with the same amount. I believe he had 15, but nevertheless, he still makes that barrier. That's a pretty balanced group there. And again, like Joshua said, he has a team that buys into a system, and there's an awful lot of depth. This kind of reminds me of the bad boys with the Pistons when they have so much depth on that bench that you can be beaten anywhere you want. And the Panthers showed that depth in this particular situation overpowered the Oilers, who were on a mission to try to get back. Many people thought they could win it, but Florida just simply overpowered Edmonton.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You mentioned Verhaeghe with 23, Reinhart 23 points. Tkachuk 23, Barkov, Sam Bennett. I mean, these are good, solid players, and their management team did a great job. And like you said, buying in, as you said, Joshua, into the coach's strategy and philosophy. That's what it's all about. But you got some really good players on that team. And there is a lot of balance. I like that, the balanced scoring attack.
All right, Joshua raises a very fair question, Candy. I'd like you to put that up and leave it up there. Will you doubt the Panthers if they make it back next year? Absolutely not. This team has a legitimate chance to three-peat, but if they can get Aaron Ekblad and a couple of Sam Bennett brought back, I think that they would, in my opinion, be a big favorite to pull off the three-peat. So I actually believe that they can do the three-peat. It'll depend on the work that Bill Zito does to retain his core. So no, to answer your question, I think they have a really good shot at keeping this group together. Candy came up with an interesting fact, and I'm going to actually bring it up. Candy, why don't you go ahead and bring it up there since you brought it up last night on our sports exchange about how the four teams stack up. I think this is great. Joshua, that's actually your best question of the night. Candy's going to give you some other information that I think will only benefit the show about where the four teams stack up. Go ahead, Candy.
So it's been a tough 30 years for one team in the Miami area. The Miami Heat have 3 titles. The Miami Marlins have 2 titles. The Florida Panthers have 2 titles. And yet the Dolphins are still waiting to be an AFC champ, an appearance even in the AFC championship game. So Dolphins are at 0. That's right, Joshua. We're waiting for the Dolphins to do something.
We're looking for them to get to the championship game of their own conference, Joshua. That's it. We're not talking about the finals, my friend. We're talking about the finals of their own conference. You got the Heat winning 3. You got the Marlins winning 2. Oh, that's not an insult to injury. I don't know what it is. But when the Marlins get in, they win. And the Panthers have powered their way. And let's not forget they made it to the finals the last few years. This is a team that's supposedly been tired. They don't look like they're tired. They're anything but tired. All they did was win a championship for the guys that have never won one. It took Marshawn to win one in Boston. All of a sudden later in his career, wins yet another one. Sam Bennett will probably take a discount, but not too big of a discount to stay here because he likes it here. Of course, none of you have no state income tax, but he just likes the culture around here because of the fact you have a dynamite coach, a great GM, and an owner willing to spend money. I'll give the Panthers their props. They built a brand new practice facility out in Fort Lauderdale, and they had a nice facility over in Coral Springs, which I like to get to. But who would have? All right, we'll roll with Joshua Door. We actually have 3 people on the show. It's okay. It's good that we started the show a little bit earlier anyway, so I can focus on packing. But who would have thought the Panthers would have been the best franchise in the state, let alone one of the best in the country? Guess what, Joshua? I love this comment, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to piggyback off it and mention this. The Stanley Cup champions since 2020, the state of Florida has actually had 4, and everyone else has 2. The Panthers and the Lightning kick in for at least 2 apiece, and then everyone else has 2. Excellent point, Joshua Door. For some reason or another, there might be hope where this guy is at. But no, this is a good point. They have played extremely well. This is an error with this franchise because they finally got solid ownership. But let's not forget one thing. We give all the credit to Bill Zito, but Mike Santos said that Dale Talon deserves a lot of the credit too for what happened before Bill Zito ended up getting here. So Dale, a lot of times what will happen is you have a general manager that did the dirty work and somebody else was able to finish the job. And Mike Santos said, don't sell Dale Talon short. This guy builds teams. But yes, okay, they are certainly the best in the state. And the way they've managed the last 2 years, they're just pushing people around, and they can play the game any way they want. You want to get physical? Let's do it. You want to go out there and score a lot of goals? And Josh, I got so many other facts I'm about to get to. I'm just taking your comments and just incorporating them where your stuff is, which is actually good. So, but let's stay with the Dal Talon thing, George. You need somebody to lay out the dirty work so that you can finish the job.
Absolutely. That happens a lot in sports. And we're seeing it right now with the Tigers in the American League, as Al Avila, as you know, a good friend of yours, Scott, and he's and he knows me too. But Al Avila laid a lot of that groundwork now that Scott Harris and the new general manager Jeff Greenberg are benefiting from, as well as AJ Hinch. Right. But that happens a lot. I mean, we saw with Jimmy Devellano laid a lot of that foundation. And right. I know they had Brian Smith, and then but Kenny Holland kind of just took off with that team in Detroit. but yeah, I mean, that's so true. Zito did make some very bold moves, and Talon did a lot of stuff to lay the groundwork, like you said. Well, look at Yzerman too. I mean, in Tampa Bay, of course, he just
Right.
he did that with the Lightning, and then all of a sudden, of course, he got the itch to go back home to Detroit to be the team president. But the fact of the matter is that he has not been able to stay outside of his playing career. He has not been able to stay and enjoy the Stanley Cup as a team executive yet.
All right,
But
well, let's
he
keep the
certainly
focus on the
deserves it.
Panthers right now.
Yeah.
Joshua, take one thing from what I'm about to say. GMTA, great minds think alike. We all know you got to give credit to Talon, because if Zito didn't have the pieces in place, he wouldn't have made the bold move. It's called stimulus response, Joshua. Remember that, okay? And we'll leave it at that. But yes, indeed, that's what set the table for this. Is it a dynasty yet? I don't like to use the word dynasty right now, but they're off to a really good start building the momentum of the last 3 years. But remember, 3 years ago, they backed into the playoffs and they barely got in, but that's one of those teams that got hot and made it there until they subsequently lost to Vegas. But Paul Maurice had to just get that team, and they barely made it. But when they came back the next couple of years, all you had was Sergei Bobrovsky, who was criticized for playoff failures. And then by having his playoff failures, this guy learned year in and year out. Otherwise, he underachieved in the playoffs. But Sergei Bobrovsky is a guy we haven't mentioned yet. But here's an unsung hero if I've ever seen one, because there's Sergei Bobrovsky. And then you also have to think that when you look at the Panthers' retired numbers, I still think one of the best goaltenders of all time was Roberto Luongo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Roberto Luongo was unbelievable. But Sergei Bobrovsky was a classic example. You have a hot goaltender, you ride him all the way, and for 2 straight years, he's outperformed a lot of the other goaltenders that have stood in his way. And
oh gosh, yes, yeah, he's on his way to the Hall of Fame. Bobrovsky, what a great stretch run he's had in the postseason last year and this year. Number one goalie, Bobrovsky.
Well, and Racho, you're right. Luongo was unreal, but he did have a horrible team in front of him. I'll never forget the time when I first covered the Panthers, and I was actually living in Arizona. And I had a chance to talk to Luongo. PR guy got me asking feature story type questions, but I said, "How do you manage to survive when you're getting bombarded with 50 shots in a game? That's unheard of." But yeah, there's no question about it. And yes, Joshua, thanks for mentioning put this one up, Candy. Now he's actually on a roll and paying attention. But Bobrovsky was considered the worst contract in the league, and now he brought 2 Panthers Cup. Absolutely. That was a bad contract initially. But in this case, a long-term contract worked out and it's paid dividends, and it's looking like a bargain right now. But yeah, Luongo had a horrible team, but at least now Luongo's there in an administrative role so he can see the fruits of his benefit. And everybody will always know Roberto Luongo is a Florida Panther, not a Vancouver Canuck. Nobody really cares about what happened there. That's, to me, the only way you know about that he's a Vancouver Canuck is look him up and on Wikipedia. But other than that, that's about it. So let's continue the narrative. The Panthers played with the lead for 255.49 minutes, most by any team in NHL history. If that isn't the word dominant, then tell me what the word dominant is.
That's true, Scott. I mean, they just did dominate. I mean, those numbers are amazing when you hear stuff like that. And those stats are really, you promised me we were going to have some great stats today, and you haven't let me down at all. Yeah. It's been a great Stanley Cup series as well.
We're just getting warmed up, but we'll tell you what, we're going to take a break for a station break. Joshua, keep the comments coming. I feel like we have 3 people on the show, but if there's any time to have him on for a show, this is the one, because this is the last time we're going to be talking hockey to this extent the rest of the year. We will be doing it on Sports Wrap throughout the course of the off season. However, there'll be just basic hockey topics. Mike Santos returns later in the year, but I have a lot of great hockey things coming up as well, and I'll divulge those at a later date. George and I are working on some things. I've been approached by a couple of people about bringing some great hockey comments on my shows in the Motor City Mad Mouse show. I'll divulge those a little bit after we get back from Europe. Right now, I'm just trying to make it to Europe so I could take a much-needed break. Joshua once texted me, if anybody works harder than you, let me find out, because you work really hard and you need a break, and now I'm about ready to get one. So go ahead, Candy. Let's get to that station break. A lot more fact coming our way here on Sports Wrap. Glad to have you with us. Scott Morgan Roth along with George Eichhorn. And Mike Santos is on vacation, but we're doing what we have to do to hold down the fort and give you a first-class hockey wrap-up. Go ahead, Katie, take it away.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by the two gentlemen that are on the screen today. Scott Morgenroth wrote the book, and George Eichhorn wrote the foreword. Great job, gentlemen. It talks about old school media versus new school media. It is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. Get your copy today. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where you can find a plethora of great content besides the book, besides our merchandise, all kinds of great stories, college and pro. Go check it out. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. If you see the red subscribe button in that lower right-hand corner, that means you have not yet subscribed to us, and I don't know why you haven't yet, honestly. But if you do that, also turn on your notifications so you're notified when we have any of our great programming. Even though we are going to be on vacation, that does not mean the programming stops here at the South Florida Tribune. So make sure you got that notification turned on. We have a great host that's going to be hosting some great shows, so don't miss them. If you want to advertise, you can call Scott 954-304-4941. And if you want to be a guest or have show ideas, or you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Back to the program, Scott and
Thank
George.
Candy. And let me give everybody an idea what's going to be taking place while we're on break. Tonight, Fire Up will start at approximately 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm sure that Candy will definitely go out there and talk about the Stanley Cup as well. We're having a little bit of a break in between because obviously George's able to do it, and I have so many other things I have to do to get ready for this trip as well. Plus, I'm trying to line up future guests for other shows. So that gave me a little bit of a window to do those sort of things. And George and I don't mind doing it because it's an opportunity to experiment in this time slot as well to see if it's worth our while to do it a little bit earlier during drive time. So, anytime I try to do different things, I always like to try them out once and twice. And if I think there's a pattern, then I'll let the pattern persist. Today it happened to work out. Joshua Dorr obviously seems like it because it's a little bit earlier than he's accustomed to during a normal time frame. With that said, we'll continue on the stats. Matthew Tkachuk tore his adductor off the bone and had a hernia, but yet this guy, has 3 goals and 4 assists in the series. If that isn't guts, tell me what it is. I'll tell you, when I hear this sort of thing, this guy could have played in any era. If you're going to play hurt through those types of injuries, that is not an easy thing to do. More power to Matthew Tkachuk, but he wanted that ring and he got it. And the Panthers made a bold move a few years ago when they traded Jonathan Huberdeau off a 100-point year, but they made a gamble to get Tkachuk and moved on from Huberdeau. 2 Stanley Cups later, the move has paid off handsomely. George, Matthew Tkachuk, could he play in any era or what?
Oh, yes. Yeah, he's my kind of player, man. This guy, gritty, grinding player, doesn't let anybody back him into a corner, whether it's defensively, whether it's offensively. He's got so many tools, so many weapons in that tool chest of his. There's teams, trust me, there's plenty of other teams, probably the vast majority of the teams would want somebody like that on their team as well. But hats off to Matthew. Kudos. He did a fantastic job despite the things that were bothering him injury-wise.
All right, Candy, put the next comment by Dora up there as well. I'm glad he brought this one up. Barkov had a nasty slice down the palm of his hand and didn't miss a game. Well, there you go. Another gutty player, but he knew exactly what he was looking to do. And as a result, he got a Stanley Cup because he was able to play one more game. And it's safe to say, I think he'll have plenty of time to get that hand to heal. Believe me, he'll have plenty of time before. It's hard to believe those training camp will start up in September, but give these guys an opportunity to do what they did a year ago, celebrate the cup wherever they darn choose. But we'll continue on. Okay. Brad Marchand says you're going to like this one, George. He says he models his game, at least parts of it, after Pavel Datsyuk. If you're going to model part of your game after Pavel Datsyuk, in my opinion, you're okay in your book. Not because of the Detroit Red Wing situation, because obviously a lot of my hockey coverage has been through them. But Pavel Datsyuk, people, is in the Hockey Hall of Fame. And if you're going to model it, that's the guy you do it. Pavel Datsyuk, the Magic Man. More power to Brad.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we were able to see him so much here. Obviously, me being in the Motor City, but Yeah, that's the kind of guy you want to model after because he really was I call him a little bit of the quiet assassin, but he was more than that. He just knew what to do with a master stick handler and just tremendous passes to teammates. A lot of assists that other people couldn't even think or imagine of doing. So, yeah, that's a very good person to model your game after. No question about it, Datsuk.
All right. Players to score 3+ goals to clinch the Stanley Cup. We know Sam Reinhart, the Panthers 2025, but get this. Here's a few other interesting names. Take note. Mark Stone did it with Vegas in 2023. Babe Dye in 1922. Oh my goodness. Okay. Never heard of Babe Dye. Heard of Babe Ruth, but not Babe Dye. But yes, here on this show, everybody, Babe Dye gets his introduction to the whole worldwide audience. And if that isn't good enough, he played for the Toronto St. Pats. Yes, not the Maple Leafs, but the Toronto St. Pat people. And got Jack Derrick in 1920. So when you talk about what Mr. Reinhardt did, those are names that might even be hard to Google as well. But it's interesting foursome, George.
Oh yeah, that's elite company there. That is really unusual stat, but oh God, it really stood out. I mean, you mentioned guys there, some of them I haven't even heard of, but there is a lot to reckon with because those guys today, nowadays, again, there's all kinds of the game is so different nowadays. It's so much faster, and there's so many teams, like you mentioned at the outset, Scott, that a lot of these records and scoring things that are set are just remarkable. You got to go back so far back in history.
This is I like this one in the chat. Josh and the guys have been covering the Panthers for 27 years. Yeah, I guess 3 or 4 people collectively can cover them for 27 years, but that's okay. That's fair. That's appropriate. So now you want to talk about the road that the Panthers had to do in order to get here. Here we go. The Panthers have defeated all 4 of their opponents by 4 or more goals at least once in this year's postseason. This is one of the more impressive numbers that I was able to come up with. They're the second team in NHL history to pull this off behind the New York Islanders. They beat the Tampa Bay Lightning 6-2. Impressive. 6-1 versus Toronto. Impressive times 2. 5-0 and 6-2 versus Carolina. And of course, we just saw what they did to Edmonton 6-1. And they get off the ice moment. That is good work. To be able to beat a team this decisively by 4 or more goals is not easy. But that just goes to show you the dominant run that they had during this particular postseason, which is why they're carrying Lord Stanley Cup. That's why they all have championship rings, or many of them are going to have at least 2. But that's dominant, George.
Oh, definitely is. And those were no slouch teams that they've defeated, starting with Tampa Bay, obviously, in the first round. And then, of course, the Maple Leafs, who keep trying and trying, and you still cannot find the right formula. And then, of course, they defeated the Hurricanes in that series, 4-1, before winning the Cup over the Edmonton Oilers again. But yeah, those are very impressive stats for a team to do that and to do it to that consistent level that they showed.
Well, when you think about it, yeah, that's what you call spanky. But in a couple of those series, they took each of these team goaltending situation, made them use their backup goaltenders, is what they ended up doing. So you want to talk about throwing a team off their game is one thing, but when you have to resort to both goaltenders, you got the coaches that are dealing with headaches that Tylenol can't even get rid of. This guy is in it. Let's go back to this guy. So they're going back and forth, and either way, they're still beating him anyways. The only team that did give them a run for their money was the Toronto Maple Leafs. They really did. The Leafs gave them a good run. They really, really did. They're certainly going to look a whole lot different next year. But the other ones, I thought they'd be way more competitive than they were. And the Carolina Hurricanes were a big absolute disappointment. But Toronto, give them their credit. But meanwhile, Toronto is in turmoil right now. And we'll talk about that later in the summer. I'm not going to get into players that are going to come and go. That's too premature. I want to save this program here today to give the Florida Panthers their moment because they certainly deserved it. And we'll have a couple other hockey notes that we're going to incorporate. But this show is mainly for a lot of the Panther fans around not only South Florida, but around the world as well. I do want to go out there and point out that this show is also on audio-wise, iHeartRadio, Amazon, and Spotify, as well as some of our other audio providers, which are up to as many as 10, 12 on top of the regular partners that we have. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. we're on Twitter. So
Yeah.
this show is being heard a lot of different places. And when you come on our show, you get great Google exposure, which is why we're working on landing more and more talent across the rest of our programming network. And we're doing that. Steven Reichel has done a good job on the football show. Think about it. I got 3 athletes on this with Steven Reichel. I got Marvin Powell III. I've got Christy Jones, and I have Ben Troop. And I'm working on more other ones, but those are 3 of the ones. And I'll tell you one thing, you come on that Inside the Picks, and that's a marathon. A lot of our other shows are. But yeah, the Hurricanes do play boring hockey. That's why they got blown out pretty quickly, for sure.
For
but
sure.
Again, George, a dominant run, 4 more. Spanky. Do you have an answer to that?
No, they had some good spanking going on there. No question about it. And like you said, even the Lightning series, they just didn't show enough. Tampa Bay is a very good team, but they got spanked, as you said. And that's a good point, too, about changing those goaltenders. You're upsetting the flow of the game for the opposition with all these high-scoring games, and you're throwing everything at them but the kitchen sink, as they say. But the Panthers really, really did light up the nets in several of the instances that you just gave.
Yeah, and one of the guys that left Tampa Bay to get his own team was Jeff Blashill's Chicago Blackhawks. But I thought Tampa would give Florida a much better fight. The other ones I did too, but I thought Tampa certainly was much better. But again, I'm going to say what I've said all throughout the broadcast, giving the Panthers their due. They are. Whether you like the team or you dislike the team, you also have to give a team credit when they perform a clutch, and that's exactly what this team deserves. The area needs to go out there and enjoy it. And I think the ones that really look bad in this little thing with the 4 major sports, the Miami Dolphins can't even get to a conference championship game. That to me is shocking. The Dolphins are once the king of the hill, and I'll tell you though, I love my Miami Hurricanes. Though they do. Miami Hurricanes are going to have a great year, but for the Dolphins to play as poorly as they are, and the Heat, the Marlins, and the Panthers. Oh, Nelly, as Keith Jackson would say, continue on. Sam Reinhart scores his 4th and 5th goals of 2025 in the final, the 2nd team to do it in NHL history. Yes, Joshua. Okay, I know this is going to pain you. The other team that did it was the Detroit Red Wings, and they did it in 1955. Yes, I think it was 65 years ago. They had guys like Alex Delvecchio, Gordie Howe, never heard of him, Ted Lindsay, and the other couple players he had on this team were Brad Marchand and Sam Bennett. Howe and Lindsay had 5 goals. Delvecchio had 6. I met Alex many years ago when I was living in Detroit. In fact, I've actually met Delvecchio and I've met Howe. I don't remember if I met Ted Lindsay, but for a lot of you old-time hockey guys, Ted Lindsay was a general manager for the Red Wings, but also used to do NBC. He was an announcer for them as well. So, again, when you talk about Reinhart, he joins a pretty elite company with a Detroit Red Wings team that many people in this generation don't know in 1955.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Sam Reinhart looks really good right now. That was an unbelievable game. He had that 5-1 win on Tuesday night. It just is incredible to see the amount of talent this kid has shown over the last several years. He's not the greatest of goal scorers. He's only got 39 regular season goals. But look at in the postseason, he's got 11 postseason goals in 21 games, Scott. Reinhart is tough. He's tough on the opposition. He's a great player. He's a center iceman, drafted originally by Buffalo, but boy, oh boy, what a valuable part he is, like you mentioned, to the Panthers lineup.
So here's a little more information about Brad Marchand. He joined Mario Lemieux as the only players in NHL history to score 5 goals in multiple Stanley Cups in the last 59 years. In the last 59 years, although I'm 62, I lived to see it when it happened. Okay. But in the last 59 years, in future sports draft, I'm going to go over some of the players that have never won a Stanley Cup, but that will not be done on this episode. We got to leave a little bit for the summer, right, George?
Yes, for sure.
So we're going to leave that one out there as a little bit of a teaser. But think about it, 59 years was the last time in Mario Lemieux. That's pretty good company.
Oh, God, is it ever. What? Oh, yeah. This guy Marchand, that was a great pickup. Oh, excellent pickup by the management team there in South Florida. Marchand got him from Boston. They got him from Boston. What a great player.
Yeah, one of those deals where you have a deal at the trade deadline that works out. How many times we've seen those deals pay off?
Oh, yeah. You're not kidding.
This is just another one of those where you pick them up at the deadline. You're trying to say, hey, here's a chance to win the cup, and lo and behold, and actually Marchand was hurt for a while, and it took him a while to get in the lineup. But when he finally got in the lineup, everybody knew the quality player that he is. Boston won't be the same for a while, anyways. I think Boston is in the midst of a major rebuild. They've hired Marco Sturm as their new coach. Marco certainly, I think, will do a good job there, but Boston's going to have a ways to go. If Marchand stays, I think that that's a good possibility, but I definitely don't see him going to Boston at all. But the Bruins definitely made a good hire in Marco Sturm.
Yep.
We'll continue on. To show you the value of what the Panthers did indeed do, they confirm there were no sweeps in the Stanley Cup playoffs this year. This is the fifth postseason when all round went at least all round without a best of 7 series without a sweep. So there you go. No sweeps. It means everybody won a game.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what television likes too, the television audiences. And don't forget that Canadian audience too. They had some great teams in the playoffs as well, but that's another subject for another day. But yeah, without the sweeps, it makes for more fun, makes for more exciting hockey action, it makes for great TV ratings down the road as well.
Okay, former Red Wings coach Derek Lalonde joining the Toronto Maple Leafs as an assistant coach. Let's talk about what happened this year with Lalonde. He was 13-17-4 with the Red Wings. He had 30 points in 34 games, replaced by Todd McClellan, who was 26-18-4, 56 points in the last 48 games. I'm actually glad he got a fresh start in Toronto. Toronto's going to need him anyways, and did a decent job in Detroit. If it wasn't for an unfortunate empty net goal, the Red Wings playoff drought would probably have been over by now. Unfortunately, that was just bad luck, but Derek Lalonde, we knew he was going to be a good coach. We knew he was going to land someplace, and he's going to be within the division, so everybody's going to know what he's doing. And again, I'm happy for Lalonde and Blashill that he gets another opportunity. It'll be interesting to see what the Red Wings look like in Todd McClellan's second year.
Yeah. And most people that follow the team regularly said, well, he should have been fired earlier, that if Yzerman had only fired Lalonde earlier. But you got to take a look at what you just mentioned there, Scott. They were that close to making the playoffs last year. And he did a terrific job last year, especially with that team being on the last day in the last game, the last goal practically before Washington eked out the win, the final playoff spot, I mean. So, he's just he's not what the media always likes to see. He's more laid back, but that's okay. Every coach doesn't fit the same mode, okay? Even in hockey. So I'm with you, Scott. I hope he's successful there, and I wish him well in Toronto and see what they can do there with his expertise too.
Well, he's a good coach, but bear in mind, he's going to be with Craig Berube. Did a good job in Toronto. Craig really, really did. So there's nothing wrong for a guy to get another opportunity, and then hopefully he'll get another chance later on down the road. The NHL, obviously, if you don't win right away, within a couple of years, you're going to be out the door. We saw what happened with Peter DeBoer. But I'm not going to get into the Peter DeBoer thing. That's just something that, regardless of how successful you are in the playoffs, you could be let go if you don't win during a certain period of time, and that's what happened with him. Continue the theme. In the series, the Edmonton Oilers are the first team in 106 years since 1919 to rally from a 3-goal deficit and win a Stanley Cup on the road. 106 years. George, we're talking 59 years in one situation. Some of these droughts that have ended in this are just unbelievable, but they do indeed come to an end when certain things take place.
Oh, yeah. That one really stands out as well. But, the Oilers just could not get the job done. And it's a shame in the sense that, they got great players. They got probably the top player in the league. But the fact of the matter is it's not an individual sport. As you mentioned earlier, Joshua, it is a team sport. We all know that. And I think hockey is more centered around that, as well as something that I know Scott and I have talked about over many different years, and that's the hot goalie thing. So Edmonton really was at a disadvantage, but they still have a good team, and they could still try to get there again next year, and I'm sure they will.
Well, the key to that comeback win just goes to one simple thing. Yogi Berra, it's not over till it's over. Obviously, in that particular situation, it wasn't. And the Oilers had one of their better moments by overcoming that deficit. Problem is you just can't go out there and not lead for 255 and change and expect to stay in it and expect to win a playoff series. You're not going to do that. And the Panthers pounced on them that way. And as a result, that's what took place. But yeah, I mean, they had their moment of the series, and you can overcome. They thought they had Picard turning him around, but unfortunately, you have to go back to Stuart Skinner. They're both good goaltenders, but they just ran against a juggernaut where you have all these players scoring 15.9 of them doing it. So, it's pretty tough stuff to do. Leon Draisaitl had the most overtime goals in a single postseason with 4. We'll just continue the stat. And then Leon Draisaitl hits the 30 playoff points again, the 5th-year player in NHL history, scored 30 points in consecutive postseason, joining Connor McDavid, Nikita Kucherov, and Mario Lemieux and Wayne Gretzky. McDavid pulls off the feat in 2025, Nikita Kucherov 2021, Mario Lemieux 1991-92, and Wayne Gretzky 1987-88 and 83-85. Florida is also the 3rd team in NHL history to capture the cup after winning a series as a lower seed club following the 2012 LA Kings, get this, and the 1995 Devils.
Wow.
You can't, when I tell you people at the beginning that this was going to be a broadcast filled with stats, it is. But this is a reason why this club was able to win, because they're doing things that a lot of teams are able to do. Everybody, I'm not buying the fact that they were tired. They were wired.
Right.
And these facts, so I've always been, one of the things I tell my students, you better have enough facts to back up your opinion. My opinion is the Panthers won the Stanley Cup, and these are the facts that helped them get there because of these efforts that took place. A couple more things I want to get to before we close out the show. Again, Fire will start up a little bit later tonight at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. But let's go back to Grand Rapids. Calvin Pickard entered Game 4 with Florida leading. They ended up leading 3-0, with Florida leading 3-0. Became the first goalie in NHL history to win a Stanley Cup, of which his team trailed by 3 goals or more after the first period. So again, Grand Rapids Griffins get a little bit of history for all the right reasons. But hats off to Picard for even keeping the Oilers in that game for them to get the win.
Absolutely. Yeah, and Pickard did. Yeah, he's toiled in the minor leagues for many years. Red Wings brought him up once in a while, but boy, that is part of history there.
2 other notes I want to bring out. Yes, no Stanley Cup for Canada since 1993. Sorry, Canada. No, Canada. You're going to have to wait until next year, as they say in the sports world. 1993.
Yeah.
And if the Edmonton Oilers are looking to feel good, Kenny Holland's probably glad he's with the LA Kings, and Stan Bowman has a lot of work to do because 8 Oilers could be playing their last game with Edmonton. I'll talk about these guys. We'll have one more station break. But you're looking at Evan Bouchard, who's a restricted free agent. You have Corey Perry, unrestricted free agent. We brought him up. Connor Brown, unrestricted free agent, 2025. Jeff Skinner, unrestricted free agent, 2025. Cass Bennon, unrestricted free agent, 2025. Derek Ryan, unrestricted free agent, 2025. Trent Frederick, unrestricted free agent, 2025. And John Klingberg, unrestricted free agent, 2025. There you go. They have a lot of work to do if they're going to be relevant next year.
For sure.
But the reality is there's a lot of uncertainty up in Edmonton that's going to happen. When you have that potential roster turnover to go along with a team that you really thought you had a chance to win the whole thing, then they have a lot of work to do.
They sure do.
Florida, all they have to do is try to retain their core players. And yes, as I mentioned, I think they're the early favorites coming out to have a chance to win their 3rd straight Stanley Cup. Any closing thoughts about what we've talked about today, George?
No, it's just been a fantastic season in the NHL. Again, we've had some outstanding individual achievements and outstanding trades that were made and player acquisitions, etc. Too many coaching changes, but hey, look, the Stanley Cup Finals lived up to their reputation. They really did. It's not often, like you said, that we see back-to-back teams, and it's rare when we see back-to-back champions such as the Florida Panthers did. So hats off to them. But hats off to you, Gary Bettman, on a nice season, a very exciting season. And we look for a good offseason as well.
We sure do. And again, the stat, and I've given a lot of them today. Okay, Cyberowski enters the program. What's going on? What's going on is we're talking hockey. We're talking your game today, your team. How about the Panthers win? Yep, that's exactly right. Give them their due. This is the last show they're going to get their due with this amount of time devoted to them. But I'm giving them But congratulations to the Florida Panthers. But again, the stat that so let me ask you, what's the stat that stands out to you during this show? I've given you a lot of them.
Oh God, there's so many of them. I tell you what, oh man, you've given me a lot to chew.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you can't remember them, I'm going to tell that to everybody on the audience. If I gave you so many stats, go back to this show, take notes, and watch it again and again and again. I guarantee you're definitely going to go out there and get it. Yes, Cyberowski, the Cats are the best sports team in Florida. Pretty really hard to argue it. And yeah, in this particular case, that is final. You're not getting any debates. So, George, you don't know what the best stat is. I'm not holding.
Yeah,
I'm not giving you a problem on that.
No,
I still think the one is the domination over 255 and 49 is the one that stands out above all of them.
Yep, that is a good one. And just individually they had great numbers, but they played as a team, and that's really stands out when like you said earlier, when you make these stats and they're so old since they were matched or had that same stat years and years and years back. That's what really, those dominations, those 6-goal games, that was a big one.
And again, Paul Maurice, you think about it, okay?
Oh, yeah.
25 years, didn't win a darn thing. 2 years.
Oh my gosh. Yep. Yeah, that's a good
one.
As
much as I still want to give Paul Maurice a credit, and I probably will, Joel Quenneville still is one of those guys who's with the Anaheim Ducks. Joel Quenneville, this was his job to lose, and I still think there's a little bit of Joel Quenneville in this team because he was a veteran that won for Chicago, but the reality is he didn't see this through. Paul Maurice gets the accolades here. So Katie, give us one more station break, and then we're going to call it a day. We'll have your show as well.
You are listening to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. If you see that red subscribe button, hit it, like us, share us, and then sign up for the notifications because you want to be notified when we have all of this great programming. Like today's show. You're learning lots, I know, because I sure am. But the South Florida Tribune Publishing Company also published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. And the foreword was written by the other host today, Mr. George Eichhorn. Get your copy today. It talks about old school media versus new school media. If you think you're learning lots on the program today, you can learn lots from this book as well. Get your copy today, available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where you can see these gentlemen write regularly for our website. There's also a plethora of other great content on there. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. If you like to watch it, make sure you're subscribed. If you want to advertise or sponsor a show, you can call Scott 954-304-4941. And if you want to be a guest or have topic ideas, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. And I know Scott's going to say that we're going on vacation, but that does not mean that our programming stops. So make sure you keep tuning in while we're on vacation. Back to you, Scott.
Yeah, Stephen Reichel will be taking my place. Also, Candy, put this comment up from John. This is really a good comment, and I'll make sure we get it on before we go off air. Killer team, killer GM, killer owner. Three-peat is very possible. I've been saying that all along. If there's any team that has a chance of three-peat, the Florida Panthers, in my opinion, certainly indeed have a chance, and I am not going against them this time. I give them the early favorites. I will be surprised if Vegas does it as well. And I think the irony is that this run started losing to the Vegas Golden Knights. They learned, they prospered, winning 2 in a row. Now they have a legitimate shot at 3 in a row. We'll see what happens during the offseason, and that's why we're going to keep this show going with hockey news throughout the offseason as well, but it won't be as much in bunches as we gave it to you today. All right, George, why don't you let everybody know how they get a hold of you? And then, of course, we have Fire Up tonight at 9:30, JD Wyatt, and you'll also be on that show as well as Stephen Reichel. You get opportunity to see the guy that'll be running the show as well. He'll be on special time. So go ahead, George. Let everybody know how they get a hold of you. We'll call it a night. I want to thank John, Cyberowski, and Joshua for participating in the chat room. Much appreciated during this special afternoon of Sports Wrap. Go ahead, George.
All right. Thank you. Get a hold of me. Well, you can do it on Twitter, X, Sanji Sports 99, Yahoo, gicorn@yahoo.com. Follow my writing at the Detroit Monitor and the South Florida Tribune. I write in the contributors section, and at the end of my column, there's always a link to my book, which is called Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. And ironically, I'm sure you'll like this, John and Cyberowski and Josh. You notice some Red Wing content on that cover, don't you? Yeah, Bud Lynch, Gordie Howe, Alex Del Vecchio, and something called the Winger, who only was their mascot for a couple of seasons. Then they ditched the Winger. But anyway, it's just a little bit of hockey for my cover as well. Scott's in the book, and so is Ernie Harwell, all the great hockey and baseball announcers and football as well. So follow me, and I love being part of these shows, the Sports Wrap and 108 Stitches, and wherever Scott needs me, the Sports Exchange, which goes back way back when Scott and I were around as friends together in the business 45 plus years.
All right. The next time everybody will see me on there will be July 8th for Inside the Pigskin. We'll have some programming going on that week. Inside the Pigskin will be on Sports Exchange, and you're also going to have Sports Wrap in addition to Fire Up. So we'll be back on then. But again, please support my team next week. And Stephen Reichel will have his own programming the following week. He'll continue on as much as he possibly can. Next week, we'll go with 3 of our programs. The only 2 sports shows you will not see next week will be Sports Wrap and the Sports Exchange. Otherwise, you're going to get a dose of the real and the rare. You're going to get a dose of the Fan in the End, which is a great show. You can find that on YouTube. Stephen does a wonderful job with his group there. So there are a lot of good shows. And, of course, Sports Wrap, we are very glad that we have it on our network. It's something that I really take a lot of pride in, and I'll do everything I can, as we've proven with the early return so far, to keep it headed in the right direction. Where we had it, did a pretty sufficient job, but I'm just glad that we're able to use it as an excellent lead-in to Fire Up. But today was just a special episode because we want to make sure that we were able to finish what we started with hockey all year and conclude it with the Stanley Cup Finals. So once again, on behalf of George Eichhorn, my name is Scott Morgan off the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Sports Wrap. I will see you in a few weeks. I am looking forward to London. I'm looking forward to Belgium. I'm looking forward to, let's see, we got Belgium, Norway. We got Belgium, Norway, Netherlands, and Iceland. Enjoy your championship summer good times. Panther fans, also Panthers, read some jersey of nicest in hockey, no doubt about it. They definitely have some nice attire. You know where to get it. As far as I'm concerned, the only jerseys I'm wearing are the ones I'll be on the boat that I'm going to have on Norwegian Cruise Line, and that's what I'm thinking about. In about 24 hours from now, I will be at Miami Airport, and we're looking forward to getting to London. So hope you enjoy Fire Up. Thanks again for joining us. And once again, everybody in the chat room, God bless. This concludes this final full-fledged edition of hockey, but hockey will be mentioned throughout the summer. Mike Santos is on vacation, but we hope you've enjoyed this edition of Sports Wrap. And congratulations to the Florida Panthers and their fans and their nation. Good night, everybody, or good afternoon.
Good night.
This time. Bye now.
Good evening.